buddy, put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Hey there, hi there, ho, ho, ho there. It's welcome back to the program. It is the Michael Dukes Show, Tuesday edition of the big radio show. Brad's giving me a hard time because I was listening to Christmas music before the show. I mean, you know, come on. I'm trying to get in the mood, man. Trying to get in the mood. Today's program is Tuesday, of course. That is the big top three from Brad Keithley from Alaskans for Sustainable Budgets. We've got three big topics for today, which we're about to dive into. We're also going to help celebrate Veterans Day today. Today is Veterans Day. Thank you to all those who have served in whatever capacity you have served. We appreciate you in so many ways. And then in hour two, we'll be joined by Chris Story, who will come in with our weekly uplift as well. And man, there's a lot of stuff going on today. So we're going to jump into it. Let's get right to it, shall we? I guess, I mean, do we need any more announcement? Matt Clayman joined the governor's race because now there were 14. Because of course we're needed to have 14. That was the next. All right. So I guess that's the Christmas gift that keeps on giving. Matt Clayman decides to join the race. Brad Keithley, Alaskans for Sustainable Budgets. Good morning, my friend. How are you this morning?
Ho, ho, ho. I'm doing great. That was great Christmas music, by the way, before the show.
I know. Well, you know, I'm just trying to, I don't know, you know, just was reading something about radio programming and Christmas music. And anyway, it made sense to me. And so I thought, well, I'll try it, see what it, and sure enough, I'm feeling a little more Christmassy already. So it's all good. I
actually thought Terry had taken over the playlist for a moment, but but now I know it's you.
She'd have a lot more Elvis and Beach Boys in that Christmas playlist if she had taken over it. So just FYI. Anyway, Brad Keithley from Alaskans for Sustainable Budget. You can find him at ak4sb.com. And he comes in every week to do a deep dive with us on a bunch of different topics, usually three big issues. And today is no different. And boy, I got to tell you, it's what's missing from the governor's race so far? Well, apparently it was a Matt Clayman because he's just jumped in at the last minute. So now there's 14. What else is missing from the governor's race so far? Bradley, hit me with what's going on here.
Well, Michael, I was flipping through the ADN and other publications to sort of come up with this week's list. And my eye got caught on the ADN article that has the picture of all of the then candidates, pre-Clayman, then candidates, under the headline, "In an already crowded race for Alaska governor, candidates look to fundraising as a barometer." And I just finished reading a couple of Politico articles that were analyzing the results of the off-year elections in New Jersey and Virginia and elsewhere, and analyzing why those candidates did as well, the issues in those races, and the position that the winning candidates took versus the positions that the losing candidates took. And the Politico articles emphasized that the winning candidates had focused on the state of the economy, particularly the impact of the economy on middle income families in those particular states, and had just ground on those issues, talking about healthcare, the cost of healthcare, talking about the cost of food, talking about the costs of living in those states, and what could be done at the state level, and what those candidates were proposing to do at the state level to deal with those issues. But the articles really emphasized there was an empathy, that the winning candidates had an empathy with what middle income families were facing in those states, regardless of party, regardless of race, regardless of any other discriminator among the voters, and how they were emphasizing the empathy that they had for the economic circumstances those candidates were facing.
Right.
And I thought, well, that's interesting. So then I came back to Alaska, and I came back to the ADN article, and I looked at all the pictures of all the candidates that are running, and none, to my knowledge, and I follow it as closely as I can, none of those candidates are picking up on that theme and emphasizing the same thing. Maybe, Alaska polling tells you that it's different, that middle income families aren't concerned about their own economic situation in Alaska. And by middle income families, I mean 80% of Alaska families, those between the low 20% and the top 20%, 80% of families. Well, it's actually a 60%, but
it's 10%, right, on both ends. It's math. Math is hard in the morning.
Math is hard sometimes. Let's take the 20% out.
It's 60%, right?
But maybe Alaska is different. But I don't see any of those candidates focused on that issue. What I see is various special interests, that they're focusing on various special interests and hoping that those voters who are concerned about that special interest will adopt that candidate because of that candidate's focus on special interest. For example, just to go through the ADN lineup a little bit, Tom Begich talks a lot about education and the K through 12 industry and needing more spending on K through 12. Click Bishop talks a lot about infrastructure and more spending on construction and infrastructure. Bronson talks a lot about social issues. Crum, I don't know what Crum talks about, but it goes on and on and on about special interest issues that they're hoping to slice and dice the electorate on. Maybe that's a consequence of the way we're going about elections with ranked choice voting, because to get into the Final Four, especially with a crowd this big, you're going to have maybe 10%. 12%, 15% to get you into the Final Four. And maybe they're focusing on those slice and dice issues because they think that will generate the narrow slice they need to get into the Final Four. Maybe that's what's going on.
Right, to get them across the finish line, they need just to attract the special interest just so they make it to the top four.
Right, and then in the top four, maybe the theme changes, but maybe that's what's going on. But it just struck me that there's really not a focus in Alaska on the economy and on the economic impact on middle income families that you saw in other states. It's not that we don't have issues in Alaska. At the same time I was going through the articles, there's one by James Brooks. It's in the Alaska Beacon. And in the Alaska Public Media and elsewhere, the headline of which is "The number of debt collection cases in Alaska state courts is soaring, following national trends." It's not that we don't have issues, economic issues, in middle income families in Alaska, but it's just that we're not concentrating on it. And in fact, we have one candidate who is affirmatively running away from it. And it's just odd. I mean, so the Democrats were the winners in New Jersey and Virginia, right? Both sort of bluish states. And so you would sort of expect that they would do well. Yeah, but they were the ones appealing to the middle income economic interests. Here's Begich in an interview in the Juneau Independent, which is frankly, a paper worth following in the state as we go through sort of the evolution of the state's press. But Begich has had an extended interview with Mark Sabatini in the Juneau Independent, and this is what Sabatini wrote and what Begich said about the permanent fund, the PFD. Oft-discussed proposals by lawmakers and permanent fund officials include a state constitutional amendment mandating a dividend and altering state law to establish a baseline amount tied to the success or failure of the permanent fund. Well, we already have the statute that ties to the success or failure of the permanent fund. But Begich said he supports these proposals without yet setting a definitive baseline amount. It could be $1,000. That's what we've been getting on average, if you don't take into account inflation. It could be $1,200, he said. That's a negotiation that you have to have with the legislature and the population, because if you don't, it doesn't matter what you do. You have to have a majority of the people supporting that constitutional change. Well, either $1,000 or $1,200 is a huge tax on middle income families. You're taking money out of the pockets at a time when politicians elsewhere are talking about emphasizing the economic needs of middle income families. You're taking money, a PFD of $1,000 or $1,200 compared to the current statute is taking money out of the pockets of middle income families. Money that is their share by statute, their share of the state's commonly held wealth. And if you cut it, it's not going to their benefit. The benefit's going to the top 20%, oil companies, the non-residents who don't have to pay taxes for their share of government costs. It's right. Subsidizing them. So in an environment, in an era where winning candidates elsewhere are trying to emphasize things that the state can do to help middle income families, Begich is running away from it. And I just think that's odd. And I think it's something, an issue that if a candidate started honing in on it, the candidate would find more success than maybe they are honing in on a special interest.
Isn't that indicative, though, of most candidates at this point, or most politicians, or most people? There is no empathy for what's going on in the middle class. Again, there's complete and total disconnect from what's happening in the middle class and the private economy. We've said that a dozen times. I mean, dozens of times, that they're more focused on what, like you said, you pointed out, they're focusing on the special interest. Who's getting paid by what? The construction industry, the education lobby, the this lobby, the that lobby. You know, that's what's important. But the private economy as a whole and the effect of the economy on the middle class or the lower middle class, that doesn't matter. It's a complete and total non-starter for most of these people when it comes to it.
Yeah, and and maybe it also reflects how dominant we have allowed government to become in the economy of Alaska. That the debate is how you divide up the spoils of government. The debate is how you divide up the richness of government, and who gets to benefit from that richness. Where we take the state's money and who do we direct it to, and who gets to benefit from that. Maybe it's an indication of how dominant we've allowed government in Alaska to become in the economy compared to New Jersey or Virginia, which don't share that same characteristic, notwithstanding the fact they're blue states. Maybe it's a reflection of that, but I think it's sad. I think it's a sad state of affairs that we don't have at least one or two candidates who are focusing on their empathy and emphasizing the economic situation faced by middle income families and trying to be responsive to that, not in terms of increasing government largesse that's going to those families, but allowing them to keep more of their income, their share of the commonly owned wealth, in their pockets, as opposed to taking more and more and more of it for government, so government can redirect it to one segment or another.
Yeah, no, I mean, it is, and that is the sad part of what we seem to be missing in the governor's race, which is kind of where we're going, which then leads you to number 2 of the weekly top 3. Give me a quick tease, number 2, before we jump to the break here.
I got to look up what the hell number 2 is. My brain was, the irritating thing about how the top 20% support taxes. Yeah. Okay. Yes, it does. Great segue.
It was a perfect segue. And, I know. But yeah, dude, this is, watching this whole thing just roll is an amazing thing. All right. Brad Keithley, Alaskans for Sustainable Budgets. We're going to continue here in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. We return with Brad Keithley right after these messages.
If you missed the show, you can listen to it on your time with Dukes On Demand. Oh, and it's free. Like America used to be. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay. Brad Keithley, Alaskans for Sustainable Budgets, the weekly top three. I mean, come on, Brad. Matt Clayman jumping into the race now. And I mean,
Oh, Matt.
I just, one more. It's all we needed. We just needed one more person in the race to make it all better, right? That's what it was all about.
I mean, Matt Clayman's worse than Tom Begich. I mean, is worse than the $1,000 to $1,200. Tom Clayman has said that we don't need the PFD. It all should go to government, so government can redirect it back out.
Yep.
I mean, Mondami, they're farther along down that curve than Mondami is. I mean, to some degree, I won't take this too far, but to some degree, the Alaska race, in terms of its emphasis on what government can do, the economic might of government can do and redirect it in certain ways, and it reflects more the New York race, the New York City race, even from the Republicans. It reflects more the New York City mayoral race than it does the races in New Jersey and Virginia, because the Alaska race is government has all this money. We're going to take even more of it from you through deeper PFD cuts. Government has all this money, and the race is who can give me the most votes. Who has the most votes out there? That if I promise to give you the money, you'll vote for me. Give the money to your segment, you'll vote for me, and I'll be able to get into the Final Four. That's sort of what's going on here.
Yeah,
and that's a lot more New York.
Yeah,
that's a lot more the New York race than it is the New Jersey and Virginia race.
It's kind of crazy to watch, and of course now we've got the whole. Now we've got the whole kind of breakdown of 15 different candidates. And as you just said, nobody's really showing empathy as of yet for the plight of the everyman. Probably Bernadette has probably been the one that's been closest to any of that, but even she fumbles the ball on some of the questions on budgets and breakdowns and things like that. What's it going to take, Brad? What's it going to take to get all this squared away? I don't have an answer for you.
I don't have an answer either, Michael. I mean, I would think they're out of 13, 14, 15, whatever the heck we're up to now, 14. Out of that number, you would at least have one who is trying to carve in on middle income families and recognize that 60 or 80 or 70 or whatever percent it is, recognize that percent of the population as an important segment of the population that should be appealed to. But we don't. I mean, we've got people who are just, flitting off of, I can build more, I can use your money, take your money through PFD cuts and build more infrastructure than anybody else that we can't maintain.
Right.
We don't have enough money even now to maintain what we got, but I can do more of it. I can build more of it, or I can, have a bigger K through 12 education, or I can have more defined benefits for government. I mean, it's just, that's what's going on. It's everybody's, slicing and dicing into all these segments and how they can take your money and give it to those folks. It's just disappointing.
I mean, I don't want to be gloom and doom, but it feels a lot like people are standing over the corpse and they're carving it up. You know what I mean? I mean, really, the turkey dinner, it's like we're just getting carved up and the people are taking their little sections of special interests off, and the rest of us are just laying there like, what do we do? I mean, it's crazy.
Out migration is an issue in this state. It's an issue.
Yeah.
It's a middle income issue. I mean, we have an increasing number of top 20%. We don't need to worry about them, but we're losing in the middle income brackets, working family, working age families. We got nobody talking about that. I mean, I would think that would be an issue that you would want to appeal to. Maybe you're concerned that your voters are leaving, and so they won't be voting for you because they're walking out the door. But I would think that is a middle income issue that you might want to be talking about. But nobody's doing that. I haven't heard the word out migration once in this campaign. It's certainly not in Tom Begich's interview with the Juneau Independent.
Well, I know we did talk about that with. We talked about that with Shower and with Bernadette as well. We've talked about that with both of them. So I know that it is an issue and they are aware of it. So at least they've mentioned it. But like you said, not many other people are talking about it. So I don't know what it brings back to. Hello. Welcome back to the program. Hi, how are you? It's the Michael Duke Show.
Uh-oh. Did we blow through the break?
We blew right through the break. Brad, we're horrible people. Hi. Welcome back. Let me do the thing here.
The Michael Duke Show. Seriously humorous with a pinch of intellect. Sorry. That is humorous. Here's Michael Dukes.
Okay, I just had to do that because then I feel like I'm back on track. That's all. Man.
I'm sorry. To the extent I contributed to that, I'm sorry.
No, Brad's over here distracting me with so much good news. I just didn't know what to do. All right, Brad. The number one irritating thing in the top 20%. When they support taxes, that's the thing. When they support taxes, it's because you've talked about how you believe that it's going to take some form of tax to try and fix the problem, but when they jump on board, then things get problematic.
Yeah, and this was triggered by I very seldom read letters to the editor because I read the opinion columns and the community voice columns and the longer pieces. I very rarely read the short forms letters to the editor. But this one, the title of this one in the ADN caught my attention. It's letter time for more taxes. And it's real short. And this is what it says. Are you tired of our state and local politicians complaining about financial issues, disappointed about poor public service, decaying infrastructure in schools? Look in the mirror. The free ride is over, Alaska. Time to pay the fiddler. Here's how. Here's how. No more PFD checks. Reinstate the state income tax. Mandatory minimum sales tax for Anchorage of 5%. All effective immediately. That would be a good start. Okay, I get it. Top 20% are starting to recognize, at least those who are dependent on government largesse, they're starting to recognize the good times may be over, and then there may be a need for additional revenue. But the thing that ticks me off is every time, and Natasha, you ticked me off when she did this, and Clayman ticks me off when he does it, and all of these guys in the top 20%, when they start talking about taxes, the first thing they say is no more PFD checks. So what does that mean? What that means is they want to cut the revenue source, the share of the state's commonly owned wealth, that revenue source that goes to middle and lower income Alaska families. It has the largest impact, is the largest, has the largest impact on the economics of middle and lower income Alaska families. They want to cut that first. And what does that do when you cut that? It buffers the top 20% non-resident and oil companies, because that means they don't have to contribute as much, if any, to government costs, because those government costs are being buffered, are being subsidized, are being taken care of by the amount that you've taken out of the pockets of middle and lower income Alaska families. The biggest beneficiaries of PFD cuts is not government spending, as some people think. The biggest beneficiaries of PFD cuts are the top 20% non-resident industries and the oil companies who don't have to pay taxes, who don't have to pay a share of the increased cost. They get to free ride on the backs of the PFD cuts. They get to free ride on the backs of the dollars that are being taken out of middle and lower income Alaska families. So when I see one of these articles or one of these commentaries that say, yeah, I'm ready for taxes, but first cut the PFD, what that really is saying is first subsidize the heck out of me to the maximum extent you get in the top 20%. first subsidize the heck out of me to the maximum extent you can by taking the state's share, the share of commonly owned wealth that otherwise is going to middle and lower income Alaska families, and using that to subsidize my taxes to prevent me from having to pay taxes first. And then maybe I'll pay a little bit more. This shows up all sorts of places. So, Zach Fields and Elise Galvin in not this legislature, but in the legislature before last, introduced income taxes. They were ready to stand up and say, we need to pay our fair share. Top 20% need to pay our fair share. Well, you go in and you analyze what their income taxes would do. In the case of Fields, it didn't even raise $100 million. In the case of Galvin, it raised a little bit more than $100 million, depending upon what assumptions you made. The deficit's $1.7 billion, $1.8 billion. So what they were doing was they were putting on this thin veneer and saying, yeah, we're paying our fair share. But behind that was continued deep PFD cuts on middle and lower income Alaska families to make up the difference between the $100 million that their two tax approaches would make and the $1.8 billion, the $1.8 billion deficit that the state's running. So maybe some of these people mean well. Maybe they say, oh, maybe they're saying, oh, it's time for me to pay my fair share. But when they started with no more PFD checks, wipe out the free money for middle and lower income Alaska families, and use that free money to subsidize my taxes, use that free money to make sure I don't have to pay taxes. The top 20%, the non-resident and the oil companies, that just irritates the heck out of me. It's like grating on a chalkboard or fingernails on a chalkboard or whatever. Yeah, you're going to come up with that sound, aren't you?
It's like yarn between your teeth, right? I mean, it's like,
it's just irritating as heck, because what they're really saying is, yeah, I'm sort of ready to pay. I'm ready to say I'm ready to pay taxes, but I'm not really ready to pay. I mean, taxes. God, no, I'm not ready to pay the rates, the rate of taxes that we're imposing on middle and lower income Alaska families. God, no, I'm not ready to pay that. I don't want to pay, 8%, 10%, 30% like we're taking from middle and lower income Alaska families. I want to pay my little 1%.
Right. 0.06%, right? Or whatever it is. Yeah. 0.6%.
And that's just, part of it is the media. Part of it is politicians haven't done anywhere near a good job explaining what's going on with PFD cuts, who's really benefiting from PFD cuts. So maybe people don't understand it. And part of it is maybe just, the ignorance of the fact that they're in the top 20%. And so they don't feel the effect that middle and lower income Alaska families are feeling through PFD cuts. Maybe that's part of it, but it's just irritating because it indicates that they just don't understand economics. They just don't understand the impact of what PFD cuts are doing to middle and lower income Alaska families, and that they don't understand the benefit of the free ride that they're getting from shifting that free money from being spread pro rata across all families to being concentrated to the benefit of upper income non-resident and the oil companies.
I just have to chuckle because I feel so vindicated in everything that we've said, because they used the actual words that I said. I said, one day they're going to come back and they're going to tell us, what are they going to tell us? The free ride is over. And what does he say? The free ride is over. This is exactly the tack that I knew that they were going to take. And like you said, I knew that they were going to take all of the PFD and bolster all of that, and they would consume all the money, and then they would look us in the eye and say, oh, the free ride is over. I mean, that's the irony of this. They don't understand how this works and what's actually going on, but they know all the money's there, and that's what they want to take. But now the free ride's over for everybody else.
Yeah, exactly. That's the point. The free ride is over for everybody else. We want to take that free money, and that's actually your share of the commonly owned wealth. We want to take that free money take it away from you. And we want to use it all for our benefit by subsidizing taxes we would otherwise have to pay. We're willing to pay a little bit. We're willing to pay $100 million or so in taxes, but we want the other 1.7 billion, 1.6, 1.7 billion dollars. We want that covered by free money. We want the benefit of the free ride as opposed to the benefit of the free ride being spread across all Alaska families. And some of it is ignorance, but people, Zach Fields ought to understand this. Elise Galvin ought to understand this. People who are going out there and saying, "Oh, I'm in favor of an income tax," this minuscule income tax compared to the size of the deficit. I'm in favor of an income tax. They know what they were doing. They know what they're doing because they have fiscal notes that show the revenue raised through their so-called income tax. And they have budget documents that show the size of the deficit. And they know that they aren't covering anywhere near the deficit. And they know that the remainder of it is going to be paid up by shifting the free money for the benefit of all Alaskans over to the benefit of the top 20% non-residents and oil companies. So some of it is ignorance, but some of it's malicious, and the maliciousness irritates me even more than the ignorance of it does. But all of it irritates me.
Well, let's give me a solution then, Brad, because they often complain. We complain about this, but we don't. What is the solution here? Is it a combination of things like the fiscal policy working group talked about? Is it a cut? Is it a tax? Is it more oil revenue? What is the solution here of all this stuff? And this guy, if you had this letter writer across Matt, whatever his name is, Matt Newman, some random human being, Matt Newton, if you had him across the table and said, okay, well, that's not going to work, and here's why, and you just explained everything to him, and you're frothing at the mouth about all, what's the solution then? What is the solution in Brad Keithley's mind?
Well, it is the fiscal policy working group. And the fiscal policy working group is basically a little of all of it. It's a little bit of PFD cuts because the proposal was to restructure the PFD from its current statutory structure, which doesn't take into account inflation proofing, and move it down to 50-50 of the POMV, which shares inflation proofing between the government and citizens. It was some oil taxes. It was some spending cuts. It was some revenue, some broad-based revenue from Alaska, from some broad-based revenue. And the benefit of broad-based revenue is that you then pick up contributions by non-residents. Reforming oil taxes pick up contributions from the oil companies. Broad-based taxes would pick up contributions from the top 20% who are making like zero contributions now, and it would pick up contributions from non-residents. And the benefit of picking up contributions from non-residents is it would reduce the burden on Alaska families. They would get to keep more of their money. Let's assume 15%, either a broad-based sales tax or a flat tax, broad-based income tax. Let's assume that 15% of that comes from non-residents. Well, that means that Alaska families can reduce the burden on Alaska families is reduced by that 15%, because that's now being picked up of the revenue base, because that's now being picked up by non-residents. So it's a combination of some spending cuts, some oil tax reform, some PFD restructuring, and some broad-based taxes. The other benefit of broad-based taxes, I would tell Matt, the other benefit of broad-based taxes is that you then have broad-based pressure on government to reduce spending. Right now, the top 20% says spending, oh, that's fine. Yeah, we don't care about it because it comes out of PFD cuts and they don't care about PFD cuts.
And it's funding a lot of their stuff.
Right. So they don't care about additional government spending. In fact, they support it. If you look at who's supporting, child care, Julie Colom's child care, or you look at, K through 12 spending, it's the top 20% who's supporting that. They don't care because they don't pay for it. If you had a broad-based tax that picked up non-residents, picked up the oil companies and said, oil companies, you're going to pay a part of these deficits too. Also, you would have a more broad-based pushback on spending because everybody would have to pay for it. Right now, using PFD cuts, not everybody pays for it. So it is the fiscal policy working group. It is the little bit of everything, because the little bit of everything, some spending cuts, some restructuring of the PFD, some broad-based revenue source, and some restructuring of all taxes. The little bit of everything spreads the burden in a way that gets everybody to start pushing back on government spending, as opposed to the structure we have now, where we have a segment of the population who actually cheers for government spending because they don't have to pay for it. The costs are shoved over on somebody else.
All right. Brad's now giving you a solution, a possible solution. You can't complain that we don't ever, all we do is complain. You can't complain that all we ever do is complain. We're giving solutions at this point. All right. Brad Keithley, our guest. Number 3 is dead ahead. We're going to talk about the Permanent Fund Corporation and returns. And that's going to be up next. Don't go anywhere. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Back with more right after this.
Listened to by more staffers in Juneau than any other show, because their bosses told them to. And after what they just heard, oh man, they're going to be pissed.
You're a bad, bad man.
The Michael Duke Show.
Okay. I'm just looking at this. Some of the comments are kind of making me chortle. Corey said no one should pay a tax in the private sector until the oil developers are paying their fair share, which is, I mean, they are. Brad, we'll talk about that in a second, because then Kevin's response was, and don't forget the oil companies are the private sector. We need to get rid of the suck of government and encourage the private sector. Taxing the oil companies above a certain amount discourages private sector. So, I mean, there's a balance there, though, Brad, right? I mean, you have some background in this because this is where you came from. So you have a little bit of background on this. And even you have said there is room there for them to pay their fair share in regards to what's going on a finite, non-renewable resource.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I have a lot of background in this, and there is additional room. The constitutional standard is the development of the state's resources for the maximum benefit of its people, and we are not at the point at which we are revenue optimizing, at which we are getting the most revenue we can. Not the maximum, not the extreme revenue of running them out of business, but the revenue at which, you know, they would continue in business and we would get the most revenue we could, instead of going down the other side of the curve, the development curve. And we're not at that point yet. We're $400 or $500 million short. And so we need to restructure oil taxes as part of this. The problem with Corey's point, and the problem with the point that people make about, I'm not going to go for taxes until the oil company, the deficits are too big. I mean, what the Fiscal Policy Working Group had to confront, because they were responsible people put in a room to actually confront this stuff, what they had to confront is the deficits are huge. And so it's not just, you can't just say, we're going to tax one thing and close the deficit. If you tried to tax the oil companies an additional $1.8 billion, $1.7 to $1.8 billion, which is what the deficit is, you would. They'd leave the state. They'd shut down all development. They'd leave the state. $500 million they can afford. $1.8 billion, it would just change the economics too much in the state. But if you say, I'm not going to support anything else until we do oil taxes, well, then you're not coming up with a solution to the problem, to the $1.8 billion. Because yes, oil taxes is part of it, but it's not. Oil taxes alone can't solve this issue.
There's no single magic bullet here. We didn't get here by one specific thing. It was a combination of things, and it's going to take a combination of things to fix it. It's a holistic approach. When you have a whole wall full of levers, you don't just pull one lever to get the thing back on track. You know, you've got to pull a combination of, we do a little bit of this, we do a little bit of that, we do a little, because there's no one thing that's going to fill up that hole. That's the problem.
I mean, Corey's point is the same, is sort of the same thing as the top 20% saying, well, let's just wipe out the PFD. That'll solve the problem. and just fully subsidize our taxes, non-resident taxes, and the taxes of oil companies. That'll do it. Well, no, it won't. It causes huge problems in middle and lower income Alaska families to wipe out the PFD. The same thing's true if we put the entire burden on the oil companies. You can't. The burden is too big to be put on any one segment. The genius of both Hammond and the Fiscal Policy Working Group was to spread it out and have everything be a little, and have everything play a role of a little bit, making a little bit of a contribution toward the full solution. When you do that, and when you spread that burden out far enough, the burden on any one segment doesn't tip that segment over. Everybody can afford a little bit more. Governor Dunleavy even recognized at that point in his famous news conference where he talked about a sales tax. He said, what you want to do is get a little bit from here, a little bit of there. You can't ask one segment to bear the entire burden. He forgot that like 3 days later, but everybody should understand that concept. And so for Corey to say, or for others to say, well, I'm not going to do this until they do that. Well, okay, how about this? Everybody does it at once. That's what the Fiscal Policy Working Group suggested. And it's the adult in the room solution as opposed to the child in the room. I'm going to hold my breath until you do X. The adult in the room solution is everybody makes a little bit of a contribution. That is the focus. I mean, that's the solution that someone who's focusing on middle income families ought to be talking about. They ought to be talking about, we've got a problem. We've got a government that we can't pay for. We need everything to be part of this solution. We need some people to contribute more, everybody to contribute a little bit more. We need a little bit of cut in government spending. That's the solution that focuses on middle income families. And I don't find any of the candidates talking about the Fiscal Policy Working Group as the core of their agenda.
All right, Brad Keithley, Alaskans for Sustainable Budgets. We didn't run over this time, so we're good to go. Let's get back to it. Here we go. One final segment dead ahead. Like, subscribe, ring the bell, do all that stuff. Here we go.
The Michael Duke Show, proudly splitting the left versus right dichotomy. Yeah, I had to look that word up too. I don't think it means what he thinks it means. Here he is, though. That guy, Michael Dukes, the one with the show.
Okay, continuing now, Brad Keithley is our guest. The weekly top three continues. Number 3, we're talking about the Permanent Fund Corporation, not the dividend, but the Permanent Fund Corporation and the Permanent Fund earnings, the big fund itself. What do the earnings look like? And we're getting some quarterly earnings reports here. And Brad has some thoughts, obviously, on this. He's got some thoughts on this because we ain't been doing so great comparatively in the past here. So, Brad, tell us what's happening.
So we've talked a lot about this on the show, and we'll talk about it a lot in the future, which is, in my opinion, the failure of the Permanent Fund Corporation, who's the manager of the Permanent Fund. They are the investment bankers, they're the investment advisors, the financial advisors to guide the Permanent Fund, the investments made by the Permanent Fund, of the Permanent Fund money. The failure of the Permanent Fund Corporation, I think, to maximize, to optimize, to achieve the maximum benefit for Alaskans out of the Permanent Fund corpus. And so we've talked a lot about that on the show. This is a good point to sort of step in and see what's going on, because the Permanent Fund Corporation just released their first quarter, their September, month ending September, which is also the month ending of the first quarter, the ending of the first quarter of their returns. And we keep a running chart that we publish as part of our charts, our regular charts on Facebook and Twitter and elsewhere. But we also talk about it on the show, and we also put it in the Alaska Landmine column from time to time. So since this is the end of the first quarter, and since we can sort of see what they're doing in the first quarter, I thought it'd be a good time to sort of check in and see what their results are. If you have that detailed chart, Michael, and pop it up, that
the
might
spreadsheet or the chart, the
spreadsheet.
spreadsheet. Okay, there you
That
go.
might be helpful for those who want to follow along. And this will be, you can also find this on the posts we make on the Alaskans for Sustainable Budgets website, and on the posts we make on Facebook page and on Twitter, and sort of all over the place. But this is a chart that shows the returns by various categories that the permanent fund has achieved, and also that other comparative investment approaches have achieved over a period of time. We go back, this goes all the way back to fiscal year 12 and does it by fiscal year up through the end of fiscal year 25. And then it does it fiscal year to date, the FY 26 to date, which is the bottom line before the gray bar at the bottom that says PFC averaging periods. And then it also does it by 5-year average, 3-year average, and 1-year rolling average, 12-month rolling average. And we do those because that's what the Permanent Fund Corporation itself does in terms of analyzing its own results. So let's go to the bottom bar, the PFC averaging periods, which are really sort of a good way of looking how the Permanent Fund Corporation is doing. There are 4 columns in here that I'll talk about. One is, the first column is the Permanent Fund Corporation's returns. The second column is the return that's been generated by the Vanguard 500 ETP ETF, electronic traded fund, over the same period. That's sort of the key of the Warren Buffett 90-10 approach, investment approach. The total fund return, which is inflation plus 5%, which is the permanent fund's stated goal. And then the other one is the passive index benchmark, the second under the other PFC benchmarks, the other column. And that is what the return would be, what the Permanent Fund Corporation says the return would be if they didn't aggressively manage the fund, if they didn't, try to pick and choose winners, if they just put it sort of on autopilot. That's what the passive index benchmark tells you. You can see on the 5-year average that the Permanent Fund Corporation has achieved a 9.54% return. That is about the same as the total fund objective, the inflation plus 5%, 9.53% over the period. And it's greater than the passive index benchmark. So when you look at a 5-year period, the Permanent Fund Corporation against those benchmarks is doing pretty well. It's still doing very poor compared to the Buffett 90-10 rule, which Warren Buffett once said, you have all these advisors just, make you spend money and they throw you in circles. Here's a better way to do it. Just put it on autopilot with 90-10, 90% in the Vanguard 500 and 10% in a bond market ETF. And against that 90-10 rule, the Buffett 90-10 rule, the Permanent Fund Corporation's performance, even over the 5-year period, pales. It's 9.54% compared to the Buffett 90-10 of 16.45. The 3-year average and the 1-year average are showing how they're doing much closer in time. The 5-year average sort of picks up a year that's in the past that the Permanent Fund Corporation did really well compared to its peers, and that's sort of continuing to influence the 5-year average. The 3-year average and the 1-year average, rolling average, are telling you how the permanent fund's doing on the current basis. And there you see that the permanent fund is at on a 3-year average is 10.41. That's over the what they need to achieve in terms of generating revenue to meet the 5% plus POMV or 5% plus inflation rule. But it's particularly poor. That 10.41 is poor compared to the passive index benchmark. What would have happened if the permanent fund hadn't paid out, nearly $1 billion in investment fees? What Buffett tells you you'll be taken to the cleaners over.
Right.
It's particularly poor against that. And then the 1-year average is the same. The Permanent Fund Corporation is at 10.10%. That's higher than the total fund return objective. So they're at least paying for the POMV draw on a 1-year rolling average basis. But again, it is less than the passive index benchmark, which is more than 50 basis points higher at 10.78. And it's again very poor compared to the Buffett 90-10 rule of 17.54%. So I think the takeaway from the first quarter, and when you look at these averages, these rolling averages, the takeaway from the first quarter is the permanent fund's improving the permanent fund corporation's returns are improving. They are better than they were at year end fiscal year 25, which you can see is highlighted in the yellow stripe across there. The 1 year, the 5 year average, 3 year average, and 10 year average, or 1 year average, are all better than the fiscal year 25 results. But so they're improving, and they're improving against the inflation plus 5% objective, which is what you need to fund the POMV draw. They're improving against that. But when you look, and so they will say, "Oh, we're doing okay. You know, we're funding the POMV draw, so we're doing fine. Don't worry about us." But when you look, when you compare it against what they could be doing, if they either just put this thing on autopilot and use their passive index benchmark, or did the Buffett rule and put it as at 90-10 or something approaching 90-10, which is the Warren Buffett recommendation, they could be doing much better than what they're doing. If you've got the graph, let's throw that up for just a second. Thank you. So this compares the results. The blue line is what would have happened under the Buffett rule. The red line is how the PFC is, the Permanent Fund Corporation, is actually doing. Both the lines at the top are what the balance of the permanent fund would be if you'd followed the Buffett rule since 2020. It'd be roughly $50 billion higher than what the PFC has achieved over the same period. And the bars at the bottom are what the POMV draw would be if you took into account if the higher balances coming from the Buffett rule investment. And as you can see there, the POMV draw would be significantly higher, would fund both additional dividends and take care of part of the deficit that the government has created for itself due to the spending levels. It would help contribute to the solution. It would be part of the all of the above solution if we had better investment strategy coming from the Permanent Fund Corporation. So first quarter results, some improvement. They'll claim that, hey, we're covering the POMV draw finally. And so we're doing great. But when you compare it against the alternatives of what they could be doing, if they even just put it on autopilot, one way or the other, we'd be doing much better.
Yeah. And how much did the permanent fund spend for such poor results? Almost $1 billion, right? 800 and something million in change in management fees.
Yep.
It's as opposed to just setting it and forgetting it and getting a 15.97% return on the 3-year average. They spent $1 billion instead, and got a 10% return. Brad Keithley, Alaskans for Sustainable Budgets, the weekly top 3. Thank you, my friend. Appreciate it. Thanks for coming on board. Folks, we're out of time. We got more coming up. Hour 2 dead ahead. I mean, this chart right here just shows the thing. You know, the permanent fund, and for those of you who you look closely at the chart here, the left column says permanent fund, and then the blue one is the Vanguard S&P 500 ETF, right? So you got the 3-year average of 10.4%. The Vanguard returns 24.88%. And then you go all the way over to the final column with numbers in it, which is the passive benchmark, meaning if you just left it be, you didn't put it in the Vanguard, you just left it be, it would have still had 5.5% more return just leaving it alone and not spending nearly $1 billion to manage it.
Yep.
I mean, this is just nutty. And you look down that whole passive benchmark column, and for the most part, it's pretty comparative with the you could have left the whole thing in there and still had a better return.
Yeah, that's the basis for the Buffett rule. I mean, what Warren Buffett in his famous 2013, I think, letter to shareholders was talking about what he was going to do with his estate after he died and how he was going to take care of his wife. And he said, I'm going to put my estate, the portion of my estate that I leave to my wife, I'm going to put in a 90-10 approach, a 90% tied to the S&P ETF, and 10% sort of a fringe over there, 10% in bonds. And I'm going to put it on autopilot. And the reason he said he was going to do that is because these fund managers, these investment advisors, will take you to the cleaners. They'll say, you need to be doing this, pay us a bunch of money to tell us that you need to be doing this, or pay us a bunch of money to have you to invest your money this way, or pay us a bunch of money to go that way. And he said, yeah, they talk about these great returns they get, but after you take out their fees, it's like a return that's much less than if you just stuck it in the Buffett rule 90-10 approach. And the PFC has sort of their own approach to that, which is the passive index benchmark. And what's going on is the Permanent Fund Corporation has a bunch of advisors who are taking fees either in the form of advisory fees or in the form of a percentage of whatever returns are generated when they put it with that advisor. And those fees are eating up the returns that the permanent fund would otherwise be achieving, either by putting it in their passive, investing it according to their passive index benchmark, or investing it according to the Buffett rule. Warren Buffett's letter in 2013 was exactly right. You will be eaten alive by the management fees that are taken out of, they look like spectacular earnings, but by the time you deduct the fees, they aren't. And that's what's going on with the permanent fund returns. You can see it by comparing it to the passive index benchmark. You can see it by comparing it to the Buffett 90-10 rule returns.
It's pretty obvious when you look at the actual numbers. It's pretty crazy what they continue to return. I mean, look at the Vanguard S&P numbers. Yep, sure, some numbers are down occasionally, and occasionally it'll be down further than what the permanent fund earns. But look at the overall returns: 24.88% on a 3-year. The 10-year average is 14.34% over 10 years versus 8.35% for the managed fund. It doesn't make any sense.
What the permanent fund will tell you is we don't like variability. We don't like, the ups and downs that you get in the S&P. And the S&P you do have more ups and downs in the S&P. We don't like that. We want reliability. We want something that doesn't have that variability. And what you get is you get these minimal returns because you're paying a hell of a lot for the insurance of not having the variability. The S&P is variable, but the variability over time goes up and up and up and up. As you said, the 10-year average, 14.34% goes up and up and up. What the permanent fund is doing by not having the variability, not taking advantage of the variability that goes up over time, is they have these, middling returns of 8.35%. So it's, I guess if your criteria is no variability, then yeah, the permanent fund's doing great. But if your criteria is actually getting the maximum benefit for Alaskans out of the fund, you ought to be doing something else.
That's the thing. If you don't care, I mean, if what you're looking for is returns, you don't really care about the variability between the time you get there and the return at the end, right? That's the thing. Sure, it may have some wild swings, but if its long-term trend is up, 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 why would you care?
And that's what the permanent fund is. The permanent fund is a long-term investment. Some people say, well, it's a retirement fund, and so you have to have the money there. You don't. I mean, it is now at a size. If you look at the second chart, it is now at a size that it's going to generate a pretty good chunk of change, regardless of the variability. And so what you want out of this is you want long-term returns. You want long-term benefits. And that's what the S&P 500, that's what the passive index would give you. What's happening, that difference between the blue line and the red line, is the value that the Permanent Fund Corporation is giving up in order to not have variability. Right. It is the loss that Alaskans are taking against maximum benefit, just so the line sort of looks like it stays the same, so it doesn't jump up and down.
Well, and you're losing $750 million in POMV draw because you're not doing it. That's the biggest part of the problem. All right, Brad. Well, thank you so much for coming on board. As always, this has been educational, and you got people love to see you get a little wrapped up about stuff sometimes. So it should be fun. And you got a chance to tell people what the answer is, and we appreciate that. So, all right, Brad. Well, thank you so much. We appreciate you coming on board.
Michael, as always, thanks for having me.
All right, we'll catch you later. All right, Brad Keithley, our guest here on the Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. We're going to be back with more right now.
Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Live around the world on the interwebs at michaeldukeshow.com, where you can come and enjoy us. We're going to have a yerpider. It's going to be fantastic. Good morning, my friends. How are you? Are you ready to join us and be part of the big discussion today? The big discussion today on wood ticks, lunatics, and politics. Man, it's going to be. I'm looking back at this chart, and I know you folks on the radio can't see the chart, and it's unfortunate, but I have Brad's posted it up, and it's up on the video and everything else. But if you let me just for just a second, let me just break off a couple of big numbers for you, just so you understand. Because again, I know sometimes you're trying to. It's ephemeral when you're trying to figure stuff out, and but this chart for me says it all, and it's a big spreadsheet chart. And in fact, I'm going to make it the biggest thing in the room here. So we look at this chart, and it looks at what the permanent fund itself earned. It looks at what the Vanguard S&P Buffett electronic traded fund, what it earned. And then it looked at the objective, what the fund wanted to earn. Okay. And so there's a lot of numbers on this sheet, but the important ones are the ones where you look at it and realize that on a 10-year rolling average, the 10-year average from fiscal year 2016 to 2025, that the permanent fund itself earned 8.35%. That's how much it earned. Barely beating its objective of 8.09%. That's what the target was. And the S&P Vanguard ETF, the Buffett 90-10 one, 14.34%. Almost double what the permanent fund, and that's a set it and forget it fund, didn't require $1 billion in management fees. That's the 10-year average. The 3-year average is even worse. I mean, 10.41 was what the permanent fund earned. They did beat their objective by about 2.5%, 2%. That's good. But the S&P 500 in the 3-year average, compared to the 10% that the permanent fund made 24.88%, 2.5 times what the permanent fund earned without $1 billion being spent, 800 million and change being spent in management fees. Those numbers ought to just, they just ought to shine. And the fact that if we had been doing the S&P 500 for not even when I say all these years, oh, we should have been doing the S&P 500 for all these years. Not even all these years. Just going back to what's this second chart here? Fiscal year 20. If we had started in fiscal year 20, COVID, and we had switched it from this fancy schmancy permanent fund corporation level and just switched it then to an S&P 500 Buffett style draw, we wouldn't be at 84.4 billion in the permanent fund right now. We'd be at 132 billion based on the same thing. And by the way, that would include $6 billion in nearly $6 billion in management fees that we didn't have to pay from 20 to 26. I mean, and finally, thank goodness, Bernadette is finally talking about this. She talked about it the last time we had her on. She talked about, wanting to look at what the permanent fund returns were about and why aren't we looking at a better way to do this and looking at the Vanguard fund. I mean, she's obviously been paying attention to some of this stuff. I mean, this makes a lot of sense. And if this is, and you know what, when you look at these numbers and you go, oh man, that's where I should have put my retirement, right? That's where I should have put, and because it's a significant, when you get a 3-year average of 24%, a 10-year average of 14.34%, and somebody just posted that the S&P 500 has made 8.55% every year overall since its inception in 1928. There you go. Why aren't we paying attention to this? Remember, they wanted to have the permanent fund be up over $100 million. Remember that? 100 billion, because then they'd get a good none of these problems would be there. We probably could have a full PFD. Well, they'd probably spend all the money anyway because of Parkinson's principle, right? That would be the way it is. But it's crazy. If we could look at this and find a way to encourage them to diversify this a little bit more. Even if you cut off half the management fees and put just half of the money in an S&P, what could you do? Right? But why aren't we looking at this and going, okay, I know you don't like volatility, but if the upward trend, even with the volatility, if the upward trend is always up, then let's go. Let's go. All right. That was the first thing when I'm looking at these numbers and I'm just like, and maybe they're easy to see in hindsight. Maybe they're easy to see, outside of the decision-making loop. And yeah, maybe Harold's just like, this is nothing but day trading wishful thinking. Okay, well, but if I'm looking at their historical returns and I can see them side by side, and I could see that historically and moving into the future that this looks, okay. Why aren't we talking about it at least? We are talking about it. Why isn't somebody else talking about it? And then we got the news that Matt Clayman has joined the fight. Matt Clayman, he's the second Democrat and the 14th candidate to enter the fray for the 2026 governor's race. Now, I just have to laugh because Clayman's reason for entering the race, and I quote, is he thought, quote, that it was important for voters to have somebody with his experience in the race. I mean, I don't know exactly what experience component of it that he wanted to bring to this, but it was important for him. He said also in an interview on Monday, and I found this very interesting, that he does not plan to resign his Senate seat. That means he'll be prohibited from fundraising while the legislature is in session. Now, Shelley Hughes has already said that she is going to resign her Senate seat. She just hasn't announced when. Mike Shower, obviously, has already resigned his Senate seat. But Matt Clayman is going to have his cake and eat it too. He's already said that he's not going to do it. And he announced this early so that he could, well, it's twofold. And I love how they put it here, because then they, that there's an end of the year thing, right? Where you can only contribute up to a certain amount per year. Well, the cutoff's the end of the year. So of course he had to make the announcement before year's end. So then you can make the maximum contribution to him this year. And then in January, you can make another maximum contribution to him before the session starts, right? Because he can't fundraise. And I don't remember if he has to turn off the donate button or if he just can't actively fundraise. I think he has to actually turn off the donate button on his website or whatever. You can't just have it running in the background. While the session's while the legislature's in session, you cannot take in any money, I believe, and Kevin will correct me if I'm wrong. But Matt Clayman, he's in there, he's ready to go. And asked about his buddy Tom Begich, who's the only non-Republican in the race. He says, I don't see this as a setting in which I'm going to try to contrast with Tom. I'm glad he's in the race, and I'm glad to be in the race. What? 14 candidates. 14 candidates. 13 Republicans. Well, really 12 Republicans. But, I mean, Click Bishop is, you know what I mean. But, 12, 13 Republicans and 2 or 3 Democrats. And here we go. Things is just, they're about to get heated. But Matt Clayman's in the, I mean, really no plan, no vision, no nothing else. He just thought it was important for somebody with his experience to be in the race. Because reasons, man. I mean, it just feels so much like hubris, doesn't it? I mean, at some point you just be like, yeah, man, you know what we were missing in there? We were missing a lawyer. That's what we were missing in the mix there. God, now I'm so glad you're here now. Because up until this point, that's what we were missing, we were missing a lawyer. And I'm so glad you're back. Thank you for looking out for us and being part of it. Oh gosh. All right. We got more coming up. Let's see. Oh, by the way, yes, we're going to talk about this. Speaking of gubernatorial races, I want to have Shelley Hughes back on the program because she just said something this last week to the Alaska story about not dropping out of the race if she's not the leading GOP candidate. And I want to get a take on this. So we'll see where this goes here. Anyway, we're going to continue in just a moment. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio.
running on 100% pure beard power. Oh, also some coffee. We dip our beard in coffee.
Ha, nice beard.
The Michael Duke Show.
Okay. I'm just going through here. Harold mocking as usual. We need some younger folks, said Harold. Clear out the mothballs from the governor's mansion. Yeah, put some millennials in there. Brian said, what we need is a guy with a boot on his head. We need a guy with a boot or at least a dead animal on his head. That's what we need. Then Harold says, waiting for at least Galvin to enter. That's a given. Yeah, at least Galvin has entered the chat. I mean, that's what we need, right? We need her to jump in on this. And then Kim just said, say what? Not dropping out must be a Republican thing these days. It's yeah. It's a kind of a crazy thing what's going on right now. Scrolling. Kevin, are you still in the chat this morning, Kevin? Was I right on that? Right? Because I mean, I think when the session starts, you have to turn off all your fundraising, right? I mean, you can't even leave it going on in the background. Am I wrong? I mean, I just, yeah. Rick says, I'd like to add, why do so many Republicans running for governor don't talk to between themselves? It's a really sad state of affairs.
The illness appears to be primarily mental.
Yeah, that's part of the problem right there. They just can't talk about it.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me. I just don't fathom it.
Yeah, that would be the worst, wouldn't it? Natasha jumps in on this. That would be the one that we didn't need for sure. Okay. Oof. I wonder if Click Bishop has promised to drop out if he's not the highest vote getter among Republicans. No, he's not going to do that because he's counting on the moderate and Democratic vote. That's who Click Bishop is. He's a big union guy. He's always has been. That's how he's always gotten, very moderate to liberal Republican. That's what's. Elise Galvin can only enter the chat if she wears a boot on her head. Is that what you're saying? Is that what you're saying? Only if she wears a boot on her head. Like Vermin Supreme. All right. Going back. Your Typhoon puppy is almost housebroken. Is that the one that your son brought back, Harold? Is that the I saw his name in the news article that he was adopted one of those puppies. So he adopted one of the puppies and brought it home to you, to leave it to you to deal with? What's up with that? Right? What's up with that? Oh, Robert's got my vote. Robert said, if I'm elected governor, everyone gets a shotgun. You got my vote. Got my vote, Robert. Right there. Absolutely. Oh, man. Randy's over here just spreading some crazy thoughts. That's oh, see, now Fat Ray's jumped in it. Everyone, if I'm elected, everyone gets an M1A. Okay. There you go. He says, I could be a politician too. I think everybody should get an M14. That's what I think. All right, here we go. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Like, share, subscribe, ring the bell. Let's do it.
The Michael Duke Show. Not your daddy. Wait, sorry. Not your daddy? Ooh, not your daddy's talk radio. Whew. I was scared for a second. Thought we were going down. Here's Michael Dukes and the show.
Okay. Rick has already made the comment this morning. Everybody must have put something in their coffee because everyone's going crazy at the moment. No, I don't know. I think everybody's just it's just one of those days where you're like, man, it's a little bit crazy out there today. All right. So I want to get to a couple of these news stories before we're joined by Chris Story here for the final segment of the show today, who's going to be doing our weekly entertainment review. We're going to get to the Shelley Hughes story in a second, but did you see the story about from Adam Crum? Adam Crum, he's firing a warning shot, says Suzanne Downing, who, by the way, if you don't know, is back to writing Alaska news stories. She's off the beach. She's over at thealaskastory.com. That's their website. She wrote about this here a couple days ago. Adam Crum is calling on former Attorney General Treg Taylor to immediately cancel an upcoming fundraiser in Washington, D.C. Now, I got questions. Why, as a potential gubernatorial candidate, would you not be focusing all of your fundraising in the state of Alaska? I mean, I understand you got friends in high places, whatever, but he's doing a Washington, D.C. fundraiser. Now, according to Crum, Taylor is aligning with anti-Trump Republicans. The event, which was first reported in the Alaska Story, lists former U.S. Attorney Generals Jeff Sessions and Bill Barr among its co-hosts, both of whom have publicly criticized Donald Trump and declined to support his 2024 campaign. Crum said that the fundraiser proves that Treg Taylor is showing his true colors. If you're sitting at a table with anti-Trump Republicans, you're sending a loud and clear message. You're anti-Trump too. Now, Crum, of course, has tried to clothe himself in the pristine sainthood of supporting everything that Trump has done. Which I think the same thing. Bernadette's done the same thing, right? It's all good. And I agree. Trump's done a lot of great things. But again, it's not the end all be all. I think this is how he's trying to differentiate himself from Treg Taylor on this part. By participating in this event, Taylor is showing his true color rather than as a defender of all that is good for Alaska. He's part of the anti-Trump wing. If you raise money with the anti-Trump crowd, you're not a Trump ally. You're a fraud. So I mean, there's a lot of tough talk in this. There's a lot of tough talk, where he continues to align himself with Trump. This Crum does, and talk about economics and border priorities and America's first agenda and all this stuff. While Treg is busy cozying up to the anti-Trump crowd, I'm going to stand shoulder to shoulder with the president. Okay. I mean, this just sounds like, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but this sounds like a little boy making a lot of noise in the schoolyard, trying to get the attention of everybody when he's late to the party. I mean, for both of them, really. They're both kind of late to the party at this point. I mean, am I wrong? I mean, are they going to get, I just don't see him dragging a bunch of, I don't see them dragging a bunch of voter support in the interim. Maybe I'm wrong. I was having a conversation with somebody the other day, and they're like, "Oh, I just talked to Adam Crum, and he seems like a really great guy, and he seems like I might be supporting him." And I'm like, "Okay, what's his policies on?" Well, I don't know. Was he's just a really nice guy? Well, great. What's the plan, Stan? He may be a really nice guy, but what's the plan? And what's his track record? And what does he know beyond government? Right? That's the thing. Anyway, then in Fairbanks, Shelley Hughes was a keynote speaker last Friday at the Interior Republicans Luncheon, where at the Westmark there. And she has said that she used her appearance to signal a shift in strategy. In earlier remarks this year, she said she would drop out of the race if she wasn't the leading Republican coming out of the August primary. On Friday, she told attendees she is rethinking that position, saying it might not be the best approach. Hughes said to the Alaska Story, quote, "My commitment is to do whatever it takes to elect a governor who would not reinstate pensions or impose an income tax," unquote. If it makes mathematical and strategic sense to drop out after the primary to ensure that, then she will do it. But this is not the congressional race of 2024 where there were two candidates on the Republican side. She doesn't want to see a scenario where a Republican who would reinstate defined benefits or state employees gets in the office. Now, if I would just say this, if Shelley Hughes or Bernadette or, whoever, if they were in the top four and Click Bishop was one of the top four, or Click Bishop was ahead of them, then I would encourage both of them not to drop out. Because Click Bishop is a Republican in name only, literally a Republican in name only. He's a union guy, has been a union guy forever, union and construction. He's always about getting the employees whatever they need. He's gonna be in favor of these pensions. He's gonna be in favor of reinstating defined benefits. Yeah, if that was the guy, then I would have no problem with somebody saying, I'm not going to back out of that. Now, if it's Bernadette and Shelley, or if it's Edna and Shelley, or I forgot who's the other person, Hyalala. I mean, okay, or Dave Bronson and Shelley, okay. Who's the higher one? One of you drop out, right? But if it's Click Bishop and Shelley, no, I could see how that would make sense not to drop out, because he's going to reinstate pensions. So we're going to see. Her comments were similar to an earlier stance and suggest she may stay in the race longer, even if another Republican leads after the primary, depending on how the field develops. The situation is tricky for Republicans due to the number of them in the race and the fact that the jungle of primary allows Democrats to dictate which Republican advances to the general election ballot, where the top four primary vote getters will be listed. And I guarantee you there will be a lot of Democrats in there voting for Click Bishop to make it out of the jungle primary all the way up to the general election. So we'll see. We'll see what's happening. Now, she's supposed to, obviously, we're going to see how this goes. But it's going to be interesting to see. But it's interesting to see that she is playing around with that verbiage now. If I guess I would just say, I would advise any true conservative Republican that if they if they end up in a race where Click Bishop is in the top 3 or 4 and ahead of them, that they not bow out of the race. That's what I'm going to say right now. Because again, any vote that could be taken away. In fact, what you should do is that any candidate who is less than Click Bishop, it should be a hierarchy, right? So candidate A is just under what Click Bishop is getting. Candidate B is just under candidate A. Candidate C is just under candidate B. What they should do is they should all just drop out all the way up to candidate A so that they can run a one-on-one with Click Bishop. That would be good. That would be good. Now, this is all assuming that Mary Peltola doesn't jump into the race. And she's got until June the 1st. June the 1st to run in this election. I mean, I know that's hard to believe, but that's where we're at right now. June the 1st is how long they could run on this thing. So, I mean, she could just stretch this thing out to the very end and then just jump in the race at the last minute and throw a complete and total monkey wrench. In fact, I think I would be expecting that to happen just because. And finally, the Anchorage School District has now put out a commentary on this whole thing with the labels on the constitutions, the pocket constitutions, and the Declaration of Independence. They said it was a mistake. Yeah, it was a mistake that you got caught. I mean, I'm just, I'm being a little facetious, but seriously, because the founding document booklets distributed to students had stickers on them that says the Anchorage School District does not endorse these materials. MJ Thim, is it Tim or Thim? Thim, a spokesperson for the district, said in an email Monday that the sticker was erroneously placed on the books. He said the stickers are meant to differentiate between official district information and materials provided by outside organizations, which is like Hillsdale College, who provided the constitutions for free, right? The stickers are intended for flyers and posters distributed at the district schools. Now, I would buy this again if somebody can show me a bunch of flyers and and posters around the district that have these little stickers on them. Okay? Again, that's all I'm asking. If somebody can show me, send me a picture, DM me, send me a message, post me in Facebook, tag me in Facebook, whatever. If they could show me other materials that have this sticker on them, I would say I could agree that this might be a mistake. But if they can't show me that, then the only mistake is they got caught. He said, "This was our mistake. The request that came in wasn't for a flyer or poster and shouldn't have been processed through that system. We will be following up directly with the requester to make things right." He said the requester was the one who affixed the labels to the booklets, which would be standard practice if the materials were instead flyers or posters. That seems like a really fancy way of blaming the person, the little aide who puts the labels on things. That just seems really circuitous to get all the way out there. Tim said the district is reviewing its procedures to ensure this doesn't happen again. He said the U.S. Constitution and the Declaration of Independence are an important part of what students learn in social studies. Should be history and civics, but these founding documents are taught in every school and reflect the values we want every student to understand. The booklets are donated to the school district every year by Hillsdale, a private conservative liberal art school founded in Michigan in the mid-1800s. Anyway, This is a mistake. But again, I really want to see all the flyers and posters that are distributed at the district schools. I want to see them all with the labels. I want to see there's a request form here where I want to see it. Show me, somebody get me some pictures of where this is at. I want to know. All right, we got to go. Chris Story is up next. He's going to be joining us in a hot second, and we'll be doing this. Back with more. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio.
We're broadcasting live through a series of tubes.
Allowing all of these entities to provide streaming stuff going on the internet.
Well, it's kind of hard to explain. Sorry. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay. 1 degree. 1 degree where Rick's at. 9 degrees at the Kenai Airport. 3 degrees in the Hook. It started out as 26 degrees this morning when we got started. Now it's 23. So start to cool off a little bit over here. But at least it's clear. Going to be a little chilly downtown for the Veterans Day parade going on at 11:11 today. Yeah, I want to see the Planned Parenthood flyers. That's right, Tony. I want to see the Planned Parenthood flyers that have got the label on them. Somebody please show them to me. Please show them to me. All right. Let's fix this, shall we? Let's get this going on here. I think that Chris Story is ready to join us. Hello, Mr. Story. How are you?
Good morning. Just preparing for my interview with Click Bishop this afternoon. He's going to be guest on my show. And the number one question I've got for him is, what was Michael like at Lathrop High School? You guys went to school together, didn't you? Weren't you guys high school chums? And didn't you nickname him Click?
Yeah. Click is like 10 years older than me, but it's okay. It's all good. But yeah,
I
no.
know.
Are you?
How did he get the nickname? No, I'm not interviewing. I just listened to you talk about him earlier, so I just thought I would give you a grief. How do you get a nickname like Click or Clack?
That's a good question. I mean, is it from I don't know. I have no idea. I was going to make some kind of offhanded comment about bugs or something, but I have no idea. I have no idea how you get a nickname like Click.
I just kind of figured everybody in Fairbanks. It's a pretty small big town, isn't it?
Oh, I mean, it's compared to Homer, it's a big city.
And I mean, it's very tight knit. Everybody knows everybody, and
no,
it's winter. Where are you going to go? No.
No. Not everybody knows everybody. I mean, I lived there for vast majority of my life. You may recognize people, but you don't know their name. You don't know who they are. You don't know this.
All right.
Yeah. Somebody said, Michael, I remember you had a nickname called Doc. Yeah, they called me Doc for a long time. That's because MD, right? Michael Dukes, MD.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. All right. So I'm sorry. What's our topic for today, Chris? I'm all over the place this morning. What's going on?
Well, yeah, no worries. I just thought, if you don't want to talk about how Michael Dukes got his nickname, I thought maybe we talk about 4 not so easy steps to success.
4 not so easy steps to success. Okay. All right. 4 not so. I got to write this down. 12 below at my dad's house right now in Fairbanks. Yeah, it's good. But he does not have snoring King Charles Spaniel Cavalier Spaniels in his deal. So it's all good.
It's okay.
I love that, dude. People laugh so hard. It's so great. And then Bosco was snoring the other day. Somebody mentioned that they could hear him in the studio. So it's a thing.
It's not so funny when it's turned on you, is it?
No, it's good. I laugh. I think it's great. No update on our fair tax. Ed, I guess we're not expecting an update on the fair tax. I guess this is going to be up to us, huh, Chris? Is that the next step?
I think so. I don't see any other way around it at this point. I don't think legislatively anything's going to happen. We know independent boroughs and assessors aren't going to take action. Assemblies aren't going to do it. So it's going to have to be a groundswell of the people. And does that mean we're all going to be collecting signatures on Saturdays at Walmart? I don't know. But it's going to have to just take a groundswell of all of us together. It's my prediction.
Well, if that's what has to happen, then that's what has to happen. But I think that we'd have a good chance of making something like that work if that's what it took. I guess we'll watch to see what happens with the ranked choice voting this second go around here. But I have a feeling if everybody could get behind something like that, everybody could get behind reducing their property taxes to a reasonable level. But if they make us go all the way to this, wouldn't it just be a better idea just to eliminate property taxes for residential properties altogether?
Yeah, I mean that's a very large conversation because you slipped in the word residential and then okay, well, is it just primary? Is it all residential? Why not commercial? Well, what if we excluded industrial, but relieve the tax on commercial? What is commercial? Is residential office? It's a very large conversation, which I thought having just a fair tax act would equal the playing field for everybody would be advantageous. But again, if there's not legislative appetite for it, then it's going to go back to formula, in which case maybe there's zero property tax in the state.
Right,
we look at another way to add revenue.
Hold the line. Here we go.
Roger.
Public enema number one. Oh, wait, sorry. Public enemy number one, which makes more sense. On the other hand, he's a little bit of a pain in the Michael Duke Show.
Okay. I don't know what happened to the weather there on the Peninsula stations, but looked like it got abbreviated real quick and you guys popped down to us when you weren't supposed to. Anyway, I don't know. A technical issue. I'll have to call the engine. Wait, that's me. We'll figure it out later. Joining us on the program this morning is Chris Story. And he comes in every week to give us a weekly uplift and a little bit of positivity and to talk about good things. This morning, we're going to talk about, well, I know that there's something about four. God, I didn't write it down. I know I should have, Chris. It's that kind of day. 4 things that we're going to do to make life better. What's your topic for today?
Well, first off, happy Veterans Day, and God
bless
America. Thank you to all our veterans. And our topic today, I thought would be kind of fun to construct a formula that is a little antithetical to motivation or the positive thought industry, and that is to say, 4 not so easy steps to success. So it could have been 5 not so easy steps to success, but I liked 4 not so easy steps to success that anybody could follow. Okay. And find success, but they're not easy.
Okay, 4 not so easy steps to success, which is good because we always hear about the get rich quick and it's all easy and just come on down and do these 3 things and you'll be. No, these are 4 not so easy steps to success. I see how you're doing it. You're a little bit of reverse psychology on us.
Well, very similar to the whole premise of the backyard millionaire strategy is to get rich slowly and affirmatively. But the first step that's not so easy, that will, though, guaranteed lead to success, is to know what you want. And it's not easy because in today's world, you can want anything and it's at your fingertips, practically speaking. Or you can look at some of the internet phenoms that are out there and why aren't you a billionaire 27 like Zuckerberg? Why aren't you changing and radicalizing the entire world? Why aren't you disrupting the book industry or the whatever industry? Because you can do so many things now. The internet has basically leveled the playing field for people and democratized success in any venue. There's no excuse not to be a 7-figure earner at this point. Come on, all you have to do is go sell a course, and you could be a 7-figure earner today. You have to know what you want, which means you have to discern down to and distill down to what at its core is the good life to you. What do you want out of life? Do you want, more of money? Do you want more fame? Why do you want fame? Or why do you want, quote, security? What is job security? Or what is health to you? So you have to know what you want, and it can't be or shouldn't be, I wouldn't advise it to be based on what other people are doing or suggest that you do. So distilling down to knowing what you want isn't easy. For some people, it does come easy, but for most of us, it's not easy. We have to really cipher down to the core of what makes you happy.
The essence. Okay. So that's number one. You have to discover what makes you happy at the core.
Knowing what you want. And number two, the second not so easy step to success is action, taking the action towards what you want. So you've decided, okay, and you know what you want. Now you have to take action towards it. And it's not easy because that action involves the D word, discipline. It means you have to be regulated in it. You have to be consistent and showing up consistently again and again in the gym to get the 6-pack abs or to get whatever it is you've decided you want. You got to show up. You've got to act and keep taking that action. And when you do, then you have to start making decisions every day. That's a corollary to action, is the decision to act each and every time. And it's not as simple as it sounds to make that decision, because there's a lot of things that will distract or delay or possibly defer that action towards another day or another time today. And then, oops, the day got away from me. So knowing what you want and then taking consistent action towards it. That is not so easy, but it's the step that you need towards success.
Okay. All right. So action, I guess, discovery or disclosure, and then action. And then number 3 is
believe you deserve it. Believe you deserve it. Truly, at your core, believe you deserve what you want. Because if you've really distilled down to your word essence of what it is you want, and you don't believe you deserve it, then you just keep repelling it. You keep pushing it away. If you be other people, I don't deserve this. And I'll give you an example. A long time ago, Tiffany and I, we were managing an apartment building for a long time. It was a very small galley kitchen, very small, cramped, but it was a very neat apartment. It was tidy. We kept a great house, and we did some improvements with the owner's permission. We had installed tile, and we upgraded, and we were starting to experiment with how to improve on a property. Even though we didn't own it, we were renting like we owned. And ultimately, we managed that building. But when we remodeled, we had a commercial building. We sold the business that was in it, and we decided to move in. And Tiffany designed it as our own home. Then we took that commercial building and remodeled it. And we made this kitchen. My dad and I, he showed me how to build cabinets and a kitchen. And we put this all together. And we did this beautiful tile countertop and shelving above. And this kitchen was about 10 times, not literally, but maybe 5 times the size of the kitchen we had. And I remember saying out loud, I almost feel like I don't deserve this. And it was like, wow, it was a real wake-up moment for me, because I heard myself say it. Like, oh, no, okay, stop. And it was almost like a record scratch moment in my life that I can still remember where I was standing, what I was wearing, and the day. I remember that moment of going, wait a minute, yes, we do. We do deserve this. We wanted it. We built it. We can afford it. We deserve it. And it was that belief and the triggering that belief in my mind that then was a cascading events of other things to come that I go, yeah, no, we deserve that. Yeah, absolutely. We deserve it. If you want it and you take the action, then by God, you deserve the results of what it is that you wanted.
All right. So you got to deserve it. You got to believe that you deserve it. All right. We got about 3.5 minutes here. Give us number 4, and then we'll wrap it up.
It's the bookend of it all, and that is to persist until you get what you want. Ogmandino put that as one of the 10th scroll. I think it was the very 10th scroll in his Greatest Salesman in the World parable about persisting until you win. You've got to persist until you get what you want. Stephen Pressfield wrote The Legend of Bagger Vance. Did you ever read that or see the movie with Will Smith and Matt Damon?
I read the book many, many years ago. I haven't read it in probably, I don't know, 25 years, something like that. But yeah.
That was Stephen Pressfield's first published work after 23 years of working towards it. He'd had some other things that had gotten sold and made a little money, but he was basically starving when that book got published, and he was 53 years old when that happened. And then you think everything from Gates of Fire and everything else that he's written thereafter, The Art of War, the War of Art, all these things that he's become a phenomenal person around the world, known by millions of people now, but he had to persist up until the moment he began to win. And by the way, it was well into his middle-aged life. And so it ain't ever over till it's over. So that persistence towards moving towards what it is you say you want, and persistence in taking the action backed by the belief you deserve it, that is the 4 not so easy steps to massive success.
All right. So again, deciding what you want, deciding the action that it's going to take, believing that you deserve it, and then pressing on to the end. See, look, I can pay attention. They're all there. That's the 4 there, but they're not easy. It's not some of this stuff. I mean, you may make it sound simple, Chris, but sometimes there's challenges.
Every day there's challenges. Absolutely. Every single day. Imagine your nickname was Click. Now you imagine those challenges, my friend. I'm kidding. But no, there's challenges every day. You stick, it's what was the Leslie Nielsen's great quote from The Naked Gun. There's risk when you stick your face in a fan. It's like, yeah, there's risk and there's challenges every single day. But you keep moving forward, and that's the beauty of life. Perfectly imperfect.
It's interesting. All right. So the 4 not easy, difficult things that you got to do, but you can do them. Again, decide what you want, decide what action it takes, know that you deserve it, and then finally work till the end. That's what it all comes down to. Chris Story, the man from Homer. You could find him at ilovehomeralaska.com. You can find all his books and his writings. And of course, he also has his show, which is going to be kicking off today at 1 p.m. here on the stations on the peninsula. Thanks, Chris, for coming on board. We appreciate you. We appreciate you being part of it.
My pleasure, Michael. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, my friend. Hold the line for a second. Folks, we got to go. Tomorrow is another. I have no idea who we're going to have on tomorrow. It may just be you and me. We may just be kibitzing. I'm getting to that point of the year, the end of the year part where I get a little loopy, right? And all I want to do is talk about Christmas goodies and what. Anyway, we're getting close, but we'll see you tomorrow. Be kind, love one another, live well. The Michael Duke Show. Yeah, we just stick around for the snoring dog. That's what it's all about. That's why we stick around, because Chris Story brings the snoring dog on. All right, Chris, any final thoughts before I let you go, my friend? I always like to give you one final bite at the apple if you stick around, just because you're that kind of guy.
No, I appreciate it. I was noticing in the comments, I don't remember who said it, but somebody said something about eliminate all property tax and go to a sales tax. Open to that conversation, absolutely. And it's one of those things, though, philosophically speaking, just coming back to the property tax for a moment, it's a not so easy thing. We could actually apply all of those steps to the elimination, or at least to the eradication of unfair property taxes. We can use every single one of those not so easy steps. But the thing that I keep coming back to is that those in positions of power keep saying, as a retort, well, where would we get the money? It's like, hold on a second. Let's just say that we were making the money from that we are making for property taxes now, but we were making it from the illicit and illegal sale of opioids. Would we continue to talk about, but how are we going to replace it? No, we would say that's immoral. It's wrong. We must stop. And that's what I'm focused on, is the philosophical idea and the nature by which we are currently taxing unrealized gains. We have to stop that. Okay.
No.
Yeah, I recognize we'll need to lay down another set of tracks, but right now we need to take up these tracks because they're going through our living rooms and possibly destroying lives, and it's definitely unfair and I believe unconstitutional. Truly, I don't think it would pass a constitutional test. I don't care what other people say. I'm telling you, there's nothing constitutional about these micro takings of your property under the threat of seizure by Caesar every single day of your life. That is wrong.
Well, yeah, no, I believe it's immoral. And again, quite honestly, I mean, especially residential properties, where you are, you when you're in your golden years or whatever, and they force you out of your home because now you're on a fixed income. That's why, I mean, I think we should open it up to a discussion on, do we need the property taxes on any of these properties at all? But at least, especially on the residential properties, because that's where we're seeing these people being forced out in ways that we shouldn't. This shouldn't happen. Just shouldn't happen. Final thoughts here, Chris, before we let you go.
That's it. I'm looking forward to the auction. Am I reading that in the comments too? That starts on Friday. You're doing your radio
auction starts on Friday. Yep, we're going to be doing the auction on Friday. I'm trying to decide if I'm going to broadcast it here because I don't have anything down on the peninsula, but there's a lot of stuff going up on in Anchorage and in Fairbanks.
Yeah,
so if you're
that's exciting.
So if you're into that, otherwise I will be broadcasting it for them on Friday at 8 a.m. Right here, and we'll be getting that done. Meanwhile, the Veterans Day Parade 11/11 this morning down on Pioneer Avenue. So if you're going to be around, be there, be square. All right, Chris Story, thank you, my friend. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon, brother.
All right, catch you later.
All right, that's it for today, my friends. We are out of time. We will see you guys tomorrow. Be kind. Love one another. Live well. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio.
We've shed our terrestrial radio skin, and now we are slimy lizard internet people. It's the Michael Duke Show.